What's up, guys? Welcome to the JakeCast. I'm your host, Jacob, and today we will be going through the 2020 NBA playoff bracket, as well as I will give you guys my prediction on who will win the NBA Finals. Now, first, if you're not already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel at the JakeCast, as well as follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the JakeCast. And also, I made a new website, www.thejakecast.com, where I'll be posting various articles and also the links to my podcasts that you guys can check out if you're interested. So without further ado, let's get this started with the Lakers and the Trailblazers. Now, the Trailblazers are a good story. Damian Lillard willed that team to that play-in game against Memphis, and he got the 8th seed. It's an amazing story, but I just think the story ends here. Who is going to guard LeBron is my biggest question. Are they going to use Mario Hezonja? Are they going to use Carmelo Anthony? What about Gary Trent Jr.? It's a question that I'm sure the Blazers are even thinking about. And that's why I think this series is going to end in 5. I think LeBron James and Anthony Davis will put up monster numbers. And although Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum might be putting up points, I just think their defense is nowhere near where it needs to be for playoff basketball. And I think the Lakers will run away with this. I'm going to say 5 because I think Damian Lillard will them into a win, but I just think the Lakers are going to be too much to handle for the Blazers. Although they've been a good story, their story ends here. Next, we have a very, very competitive series between the Rockets and the Thunder. Now, this is a very intriguing matchup because Chris Paul was on the Rockets last season, and Russell Westbrook, who spent his whole career on the Thunder, is now on the Rockets. So there might be some animosity between the two teams. Now, Russell Westbrook will be missing the first couple games because of a quad injury, which is crucial. It's going to be the James Harden show for the first couple games. Now, I think the way the Rockets play will hinder the Thunder. The Thunder do have that 3-guard lineup, but their center, Steven Adams, he is borderline unplayable in this series. He is an amazing rebounder and an amazing center, but I think the small ball lineup, which forces the opposing centers to go out on the perimeter and defend, will not suit OKC at all. I think PJ Tucker and Jeff Green and Robert Covington, whoever they put at that 5 position, is going to stretch the floor to a point where Steven Adams becomes unplayable. However, with that being said, OKC does have a scary lineup of their own. They have the 3-guard lineup of Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Dennis Schroeder that has been a wrecking ball throughout the course of the season. I think that lineup would be devastating to Houston, considering they're already not the best defending team. However, with that being said, I think Houston's offense will be too much to handle for OKC, and I see the Rockets finishing the series off in 6 games. Next, we have the game that just finished between the Utah Jazz and the Denver Nuggets. Donovan Mitchell dropped 57, and that's what it's going to take for them to be competitive. Mike Conley is out, Bogdanovich is out, and although Mike Conley is coming back at some point, whenever he comes back after the birth of his son, he's going to have to quarantine for 14 days at the bubble, which is going to be crucial considering that playoff games are now played every other day, and he's already missed Game 1. Donovan Mitchell will have to perform like he did in Game 1 for the Jazz to even have a chance. So I think the Nuggets would finish this in 6. I think it was a competitive game. However, if the Denver shoots like they did in the first half across the entire series, I think it's just going to be too much for the underhanded Jazz. I see that series finishing off in 6, but it could be more. It could be in 5 if Mike Conley does not come back soon. Next, we have the Clippers versus the Mavericks, which is not a good matchup for the Mavericks. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George will hound Luka Doncic, and I think this series will be in the Clippers' favor. Although Kristaps Porzingis could have an amazing series, his success is oftentimes dependent on Luka Doncic either pick and popping with him or driving it and kicking it out the shooters. The Mavericks do have the league's best offense, but I just think they're a year away from truly competing for an NBA championship. as this is Luka Doncic's first playoff experience, as well as Kristaps' first playoff experience. I think the Clippers will handle this in about 6 games, or even 5, but I'm going to go with 6 because the Mavericks are a good team. They are a great 7 seed. They just got a bad end of a draw with the Clippers in the first round. Next, we'll head over to the East, and we got the Bucks and the Magic. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I think we all know what's going to happen. The Bucks should steamroll the Magic, and it should be a sweep. I just don't think the Magic have the firepower to contain Giannis or all the shooters around him, and the Bucks are stacked. I mean, although the Magic, they're okay defensive team with Steve Clifford at the helm, I just think the Bucks are going to be too much for the Magic to handle as they enter probably a rebuild with the players such as Vucevic and Aaron Gordon. I don't think being part of the team much longer. So the Bucks, they should sweep that. Next, we have the Pacers versus the Heat, or TJ Warren versus Jimmy Butler. I think the Heat will win this in 5. I don't see the Pacers being a threat after they lost the bonus. Victor Oladipo is still trying to get his legs under him, and TJ Warren, he is starting to slow down after his incredible start. I think the Heat are just, they have way too many shooters and they have way too many wings to throw at them. And I just think Jimmy Butler will will that team and really provide a personality against the Pacers that the Pacers just simply cannot match. I think the series ends in 5 with the Heat shooting lights out throughout the series. Next, we have the Celtics versus 76ers, two teams that underwhelmed me quite a bit this season for various reasons. I think the Celtics will win this in 5 or 6 if Joel has a good game. I just think that with the loss of Ben Simmons and an already shaky team, I just think the likes of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown will pop off with Thibault. He's an interesting player. He's a great defender with no offensive game, but let's be real. In this series, if Ben Simmons was there, he would be the one guarding Tatum or switching off to help on Brown. With the absence of Simmons, I just think the 76ers will be overwhelmed with the star power that Tatum could possess, as well as all the likes of Brown, Hayward, Walker. But it is interesting to see the health of Kemba Walker. Nobody really knows what that knee issue is or if he's healthy. He could be healthy, he could not be healthy, but this series won't be the true test because the 76ers do not have the guards that are skilled enough to go against the likes of a Kemba Walker and really challenge him. Unless they were to put Thibault on him, Shake Milton and Josh Richardson, I don't think are going to be able to defend Kemba Walker if he's healthy or challenge him. Next, we have the Raptors and the Nets. Like the Bucks, I think this is going to be a sweep. I think the Raptors, even though they're a 2 seed, have somehow become underrated, and the Nets, they just don't have the players around Karis LeVert to really challenge anybody. They challenged the Blazers in the last game, but other than that, they did win a few games, but I just don't think once the playoffs start, they will be in no place to win. And I think the Toronto Raptors are a well-coached team. And although they don't have the necessary star, as some people would like to say, they do have a great collection of guys who know their role and know what they're responsible for. And I really like that. So I think the Raptors will win this in 4. Going back over to the West, we have the Lakers and the Rockets. I think, again, like what happened with the Portland Trailblazers, that the Rockets will be too undersized and could not throw anybody at Davis or LeBron. Although the same can be said about the Lakers as who is going to guard Russell Westbrook and James Harden, but I just think with the lack of a true center or even a big man for that matter to throw at LeBron or Anthony Davis, that they're just going to be too much for the Rockets, and I see this ending in 6. James Harden and Russell Westbrook will a few games their way, but I just think they're no match for the Lakers, and the Lakers will be in the Western Conference Finals. Next, we have the Denver Nuggets versus the Clippers. I think this has the potential to go 7, but in the Clippers' favor, I think Denver has the right tools and pieces to really challenge the Clippers, especially if the Clippers are not 100% healthy or if they don't have the chemistry that is necessary. However, I do see the Clippers' star power willing them in a game 7. I think Jokic and Jamal Murray will perform outstanding with their pick and pop and their pick and roll, but I just think the Clippers will overpower them, and I think Denver is 1 year away. Once Michael Porter gets a couple more games under his belt, and we see what Bol turns into, and they Jokic, Barton, Murray, Harris. Once they get 1 more year, I think they can really challenge, and they'll be scary. I think this will be a competitive series, but the Clippers will be the second team into the Western Conference Finals, finishing this in 7. Next, we have the Bucks and the Heat. I think the Heat are a very under the radar team. They're well coached, but I think the Bucks will be too much for the Heat to handle. The Heat have a lot of shooters, but they're dependent on that shooting. And Giannis, although Jimmy Butler is a great defender, I just think the Heat lack the other wing defenders that could throw at Giannis once Jimmy sits down or gets switched off of somebody. I think this will be finished in 5. Giannis will go off in this series, and I think this will finish in 5. Next, we have the Celtics versus the Raptors, and I feel like this is going to be an underrated pick, but I think the Raptors are going to really devastate the Celtics. I just don't like how the Celtics have performed this season. One day they're good, one day they're poor, but I think the Raptors are consistent. Like I said, they're well coached. They have a group of guys that know their role. They have a set rotation, and they work well together. And after all, they are the defending champs, even without Kawhi. With that being said, I think this would be finished in 6. I think the Raptors will advance to the Eastern Conference Finals to face the Bucks. Back over to the West, we have the Lakers versus the Clippers, which everybody expected, but I think the Lakers will beat them in 6. Now, hear me out. That might not be an attractive pick, but I just think Kawhi Leonard and Paul George will run into trouble during this playoff series, as the experience of LeBron will be too much to handle, and that Anthony Davis will be excellent. I think in the couple matches that the Clippers have faced off the Lakers, Anthony Davis has put up monstrous numbers. The only issue is Anthony Davis does have a tendency to shy away from the big moments. However, if they've made it this far into the playoffs, I'm hoping that that tendency can go away and that they can finish off the Clippers in 6 and that they will advance to the NBA Finals. Back over to the East, we have the Bucks versus the Raptors. Now, I do not think this will be as competitive as the Lakers series. I do see this going 5, but again, the Bucks are going to be too much to handle. The Raptors, they're a well-coached team. They have defenders to throw at Giannis, but I just think this is the Bucks season to really break through of the East. They're going to have last year on their mind where they're up 2-0 and could have been up 3-0, but then they blew it, and then the rest is history. That's going to be on their mind even without Kawhi Leonard being there. I think Giannis will will this team to the NBA Finals to square off against the Lakers. Now, we have an NBA Finals of the Los Angeles Lakers versus the Milwaukee Bucks. This is going to be an intense series as LeBron looks to seek out his 4th NBA championship, and Giannis seeks to prove himself that he is the best player in the world. I think Giannis comes through, and Giannis will lead the Bucks to win the 2020 NBA Finals against the Lakers in 6. Now, I think LeBron will make it competitive, but I just think the Lakers and the Bucks, I think the Bucks have the advantage in almost everything. Shooting, defense. I think Giannis is on a mission to prove the doubters wrong and to give Milwaukee an NBA championship. Now let me know what you guys think. I'm all ears. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheJakeCast or Instagram to let me know your thoughts, as well as follow me on YouTube and check out my new website, www.thejakecast.com, for more articles like this. I'll see y'all later.